These are the steps that will take you from being an average student to being the top of your class. Let's begin. So tip number 1, try to spread your studying over a longer period of time. Try to take small steps rather than big and compressed ones. If you spread the information over a longer period of time, then it will seem far less daunting and easier to handle than big steps that might cause you to fall. If you have a test in 2 weeks, then rather than studying the day before, try to study 30 minutes and then build up to the exam so that you have a much more efficient way of studying. You also want to think about this in the long term. If you have an exam in 4 months' time, rather than studying 3 weeks before, try to study 4 months before. In a study done on York medical students, they have found that when the students spread the information across the longer period of time, they were much more likely to get higher grades and less likely to procrastinate. And this has been shown to be a much more effective way of studying rather than studying 3 weeks before and cramming yourself up. So you might ask yourself, how do I maintain that level? Because I get bored, I lose motivation 4 months before the exam. Well, on to tip 2, and that is making studying a habit. It takes 66 days to build a habit, to make it automatic. So 66 days might seem a long time, but what you realize is that slowly it'll become more and more easier. The first day, second, third, fourth, 9th, 11th, 21st, and you will slowly become more automatic. Even if you cut 1 or 2 days, it will perhaps take 100% of your willpower to start the first day, and then the second day it will take 98, and then so forth until you reach the exam when then you're studying for 2% willpower. And then on to tip 3, the greatest tip that helped me achieve the grades I want, which is understanding everything by the core. Rather than memorizing it and thinking that you understand it, and then you go to the exam and then you realize you don't understand it, you actually go into the core, understand all the basic principles behind the message of the information. You have to have essentially that oh moment when you study. Well, you might ask, how do I understand the core? Well, what you can do is you can try to understand the same information in 2 different ways. And what do I mean by that? For example, looking at 2 different websites, saying the exact same information but in different ways. This can make it click. There are hundreds of videos out there explaining very, very complex topics in easy terms. Having 3 different streams of information can allow you to understand the same information perfectly. And if we combine that with tip number 4, which is addressing all the shortcomings in your studying, we can apply this to all the topics in the textbook. And what you find is now you have no weaknesses. If you think about it, all the weaknesses that you have in your knowledge is because you haven't studied it for long enough. Address all the shortcomings in your studying. How do you do that? Maybe ask questions. Again, watch YouTube videos, read books, textbooks, education websites, everything, addressing all shortcomings in your understanding. Then you have a perfect strategy. And on to tip 5, you should rely on no one. Be independent and have your own system of understanding everything you need to understand. Because if you have a dependency on some teachers, you will have bad teachers and you will get bad grades. So what you should do is you should create a system where you can rely on yourself from bringing all these points that I spoke about earlier and making it your own system. Spreading the information you have to memorize as far as possible, understanding the core behind the message by looking at different sources of information and addressing any shortcomings in your understanding. This might provide you with a system that will allow you to rely on no one and get these amazing grades. Thank you for watching.